Thank you, Madam President, for recognizing me to contribute in this debate in relation to the budget presentation for financial year 2021-22, entitled Resilience in the Face of a Global Pandemic. Madam President, to the friends, family, and financiers who have experienced resilience while the rest and the majority of the population are suffering under the strain caused by mismanagement of the pandemic, I say to them, congratulations. This is probably a budget for you. Probably you can relate to it. People taking offense to the use of friends, family, and financiers, but I don't know that they're really in the rank as yet. I don't know that they have any buildings to rent and so on that they could really take offense. So stay the course, you might end up there. But whilst many people are struggling to hold on, to find employment, to live off their savings, to juggle their work duties, their homeschooling duties, and all the while, what they have to turn on the news and witness every night is a frontal attack on our democracy. I say to them, the longest rope has an end, and we in the opposition stand firm in our defense of those against whom the government has declared war. We remain committed to rescuing, rebuilding, and restoring Trinidad and Tobago under the astute leadership of the Honorable Kamala Persad-Bissessar, who I have to congratulate for her fearlessness and her dedication to this nation and its people. In the last few weeks, I have never seen someone exhibit such bravery and such courage in fighting for what is right for the people of this country. We stand with her in defense of the poor. We stand with her in defense of those who have their rights and freedoms curtailed by the government. And we stand in defense of the rule of law. We will not sit quietly while wives get legal briefs, merit lists are withdrawn, secret indemnities are signed with promises that we would not assist foreign law enforcement. The People's National Movement, on the one hand, want to bring a politically appointed Trinidad and Tobago Revenue Authority as a private tax army against our citizens, but they are signing agreements to help a Queen's Counsel escape tax authorities in the UK. I wonder how the Financial Action Task Force, the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force, and the EU, who still have us blacklisted for tax compliance, and other foreign organizations will view this development. Madam President, I've sat here for 3 days almost, it's the third day. I also listened to the budget debate in the other place very intently and the Standing Finance Committee. I have not heard one single minister who has honestly and truly said anything that could give comfort to those who are presently experiencing hardship. They have stood here and they have praised themselves while the population crying out for relief. The Honorable Leader of the Opposition, in her brilliant and hard-hitting response to this paltry excuse of a budget. I'm sorry, I'm hearing, the senator interrupting. I think maybe she wants to speak. She hasn't spoken as yet, but you'll get your chance to talk about the PNM Slush Fund Scholarship
Senator
and all that.
Lutchmedial, how about you address me? Okay?
Yes, madam. Madam President, I'm proud to serve this country alongside fearless and true patriots who expose the incompetence, the wrongdoing, and the illegality of this PNM government. People like Ravi Balgobin Maraj, who not for the first time had to take on a fight on behalf of the people of this country to uphold our constitution because the PNM members of this House failed to do so. Madam President, if I was the Minister of Health, I would hand in my resignation and carbon copy it to a real doctor like Dr. Gopi Singh after that stellar presentation here yesterday. One Dr. Gopi Singh could replace the whole Saturday lineup. And I'm sorry to say, in order to keep their jobs, they flip-flop all over the place like fish out of water. I know how hard it is to be a public servant, but to them I say professional integrity is something that no salary or job title could compensate for.
All right, Senator Lutchmedial, I always urge members, when you are speaking about persons who are not within this chamber, to be careful. All right? So I'm asking you to move on from that line.
Madam President, the best that the government could offer as a comeback to the brilliance of Dr. Gopi Singh was the contribution of Senator Ibrahim, who confessed that he spends a lot of his time watching UNC rallies and Monday Night Forum. He could tell you about people, how many didn't or didn't wear masks at rallies last year before it was the law, but he neglected to say whether or not he had watched the Attorney General's arm wrestling match, where he perhaps, and it was the view of many, breached the public health regulations and congregated without masks with many people. Madam President, the government has publicly stated, or the Prime Minister has publicly stated, that he lost confidence in the Commissioner of Police a year ago, perhaps for not wanting to enter private property in order to enforce regulations that they themselves couldn't comply with. But through you, Madam President, I'll encourage Senator Ibrahim, and I know he'll watch later. Oh no, he's here now. He arrives just in time. I'll encourage him to continue to watch UNC rallies and Monday Night Forum. Don't just look with your eyes, listen with your ears, open your mind to the truth. Salvation and redemption available to everyone. As long as there's life, there's hope, and you might still see the light of the rising sun and come to your senses. He actually was not able to refute any of the salient points raised by Dr. Gopi Singh with respect to the failure of the government to manage this COVID pandemic. Madam President, if I was the Minister of Sport, I would probably go hide in Mainridge and never show my face again, because people who understand sport, people who love sport, people who have a true passion for the development of sport have exposed the failures. But Madam President, like sports, like education, sport is a stepping stone out of poverty. If we truly develop sport in this country, we would not have to give the lion's share of almost every single budget to national security. In a country where you're struggling to reduce our balance of payments, the one thing that we export now might be bandits, because our CARICOM neighbors are now seeing the effects of our poor management of the crime situation here in Trinidad and Tobago. Madam President, God help us, but it appears that this is where we have reached. We are exporting crime. No amount of old talk about research and footnoting can hide the fact that the government have failed the people of this country. They praise themselves for saving money on this Red House, and today we need an umbrella so that we could stand here and speak. $441 million plus the cost of buckets and mop. The legacy of Las Alturas has arrived at Abercrombie Street. The Red House perhaps is a reflection of the country as a whole, everything leaking, falling down, like that little piece of ceiling there. And why? Because the PNM cannot get it right. They cut and slash spending on important things that would make meaningful impacts on the lives of people, and instead they invest in paintings. Madam President, what we witnessed here yesterday was no coincidence. We saw yesterday that when the rain fell, it was perhaps a metaphor for the tears of poor people crying out for food, being called greedy. It fell at the right place and the right time. But it was also proof that in this country, you never get value for money. The only thing that we have seen done with proficiency in this budget exercise is the regurgitation of excuses and the recycling of old plans. No new ideas to generate income, except the collection of property tax. No new ideas for diversification. I heard someone mention that they will now try to develop medical tourism using the Couva Children's Hospital, which they have rebranded, because that's the one thing that they also do well. They rename things. They renamed a bus shed a transportation hub. I understand they cut ribbons to open a mail center, which is a collection of mailboxes. And also there's something now that the social media is referring to, a multi-user hydration facility, also called a standpipe. But that is where the PNM has taken us back to, that these are the things we celebrate in our communities today under this government. Madam President, the only thing that probably excited me a little bit in this whole debate was when I heard the Minister of Works and Transport say that they were making licensing office digital so you could transact business online. I know somebody who has been trying to transfer a Porsche Cayenne since 2016, and he has been unable to do so. So I hope that this will make an impact and help assist him in that regard. Madam President, if you ever heard about half a story, people in our local parlance, they like to say that you're giving them half the story. We always get in half the story sometimes in here. They boast about a completely digitalized system for this and a completely digitalized system for that. But everything that you do online now, for the company's registry, for example, you have to go and take it to TT Post. You have to buy 2 envelopes, not 1, 2 envelopes, and send it into them. When you sign up for the service, let's say, for example, through TT Connect, when the pandemic started, you had to sign up for TT Connect. Do you know that in the whole of San Fernando, there is not a TT Connect office? You have to go to Princestown in a side street where there is no parking. The entire legal profession, every lawyer in San Fernando complained that they could not do business through the company's registry without this TT Connect connection, and we had to journey to Princestown, and it was a nightmare. It was a complete and utter nightmare. Even now, the new service that they have in the Registrar General's department, I don't know if the next time the Honorable Minister is walking the floor, if she could verify this or not, but when you sign up for it, you have to complete the registration, print everything from your birth certificate, your legal, your last receipt for your legal fees, your practicing certificate, 2 forms of ID, the forms, your national insurance registration, your VAT registration, all of that. After you scan it and upload it on the system, you print all of it, and you still have to carry it into the Registrar General Department. What is the digitalization that they're talking about? That is what is purely the 100% digitalized environment that we are operating in. So as I said, Madam President, we're only getting half the story that they're boasting about here. They will tell us the whole education history and about researching and footnoting, but they cannot tell us why in the year 2021, the leaders who they praise so much will not come out and speak definitively on issues like gender-based violence. They are the ones who propagate toxic masculinity amongst our society. So they could come here and tell us that they're allocating millions of dollars for gender-based violence unit, domestic violence hotline, social safety net for the vulnerable in our society. That means nothing. It means nothing if your leaders do not set an example and attack the source of all these crimes that occur against women in our society. They will tell you that the answer to everything, every crime problem that we have in this country is to restrict bail. That's the only solution they have, restrictions on bail for people who are presumed innocent. But they will not come here and tell us how they will improve the detection and conviction rate in relation to criminal offenses. They cannot tell us why they do not think every child in this country should have had a laptop in their hand when they enter secondary school. They cannot tell us why they support a leader who snatched those laptops out of the hands of the children when he entered into office. But they will come here to tell us how they learn to do research and while thousands of our children remain under oppression because they are deprived from education. The Attorney General in the other place, Madam President, started to talk about, I cannot step outside of Gulfview. Well, I want to tell him I didn't land in Gulfview by accident or luck or by anyone getting any lucrative rental agreements. I got there because of the sacrifices made by others to get an education. I ended up there because the concordat that the government wants to mash up now helped poor people to get an education. Instead of trying to replicate the formula and raise the bar for everyone, they want to lower the bar and call that equality. Because you see, the PNM is all about lifting themselves over and above the people that they rule. They believe in divide and conquer. They believe in keeping people oppressed while they lift themselves. They want a bigger piece of the pie for themselves, but would not grow the size of the pie so that everyone could have a bigger slice. That is PNM plans and policies. They have spent millions of dollars and plundered the savings account of this country known as the HSF only to have 1,600 people perish under their watch. You want to talk about fake news? Fake news is that we have a parallel healthcare system. Fake news is that we are not interfering with our independent institutions. Fake news is that we need a state of emergency to contain the spread of a virus when what the government wants to do is stifle the voice of the people. And apparently, according to the Attorney General, we need a state of emergency so people could give injection. They cannot come here and explain to people what they are really doing to relieve us from the strain of the COVID pandemic, both on a health front as well as on an economic front. They cannot even get people to come and take the injection because the population do not trust them. They're bullying and ranting and raving, and secrecy and non-disclosure agreements have created a level of distrust, and that is the reason for vaccine hesitancy. But they want to say that they have to have a state of emergency so that regulations could let dentists and vet and medical interns administer a vaccine that we buy with a loan from China. Up to now, nobody knows the price per jab. And even when people come to take the vaccine, if the PNM cannot get a photo up or a chance to promote themselves, they will cancel it. Attorney General Alwari seems to be so afraid of this little girl from Gulfview and a little counselor that he rather corral people like cattle into Gulf City Mall with central air conditioning so that he can gallery himself at a super spreader event in San Fernando West and hand
Madam
out
President, standing order 46-6.
Yes. Senator
I'll withdraw it,
Lutchmedial,
Madam President.
please. It's one thing I understand. This is a budget debate, and I have given a lot of leeway, but I would ask you to not personalize things as much as you are right now.
Madam President, those who hold office would perhaps prefer to see chaos that we have seen ensue in many instances at vaccine sites in this country, all around this country, including when it deals with our most vulnerable and elderly people in society, rather than seeing well-organized events, because the vaccines are handed out as though they are some sort of gift, and it is an opportunity for public relations. When you have no accomplishments of substance to speak of, that you are stealing credit for projects done by UNC councillors, and you cancel vaccination drives which are organized at the behest of your own cabinet colleagues. Madam President, contrary to what some people may think, not everybody is crushing on them. Nowhere is it more evident that we do not get value for money than when one looks at the conduct of litigation. In 2021, the person who drafted the order that resulted in the unconstitutional acting appointment of a police commissioner spent $75 million on fees. The budgeted amount for 2021 was $33.5 million, but he had to come for more in the midterm review. $33.5 million is not enough to defend the incompetence of the state in the management of legal affairs. The actual expenditure almost doubled. They could spin it however they want, Madam President. On 2 occasions, they had to be taken to court for passing an order that was offensive to the Constitution with respect to the appointment of a commissioner of police. And I had the privilege of standing in court on both occasions and driving the point home that it is not open to the Attorney General to simply ignore our Constitution and pass orders, subsidiary legislation, to do as he pleased. It is costing the taxpayers money, Madam President. The lawyers who are being hired by the state to defend his sloppy work are certainly resilient under this budget. But they are collecting fees, and all that they are doing is coming to court sometimes to concede in the matter. Because somebody who clearly does not have faith in the management of the legal affairs of the state leaked an opinion that basically rubbished all the claims that were made to the media. And I have it here. As much as they want to deny it, as much as they try to forget it exists, attorneys wrong about errors made in the appointment of Griffith as acting COP. Madam President, when the legal advisor to the state will stand up and say that he had the benefit of drafting an order, updating it, bringing it to the parliament and so on, and defends what turns out to be the unconstitutional actions of the Police Service Commission, and then only has to recoil and resile and retract when somebody leaks an opinion also paid for by the taxpayer. And still the taxpayer is paying 2 senior counsel, one to represent him and one to represent the Police Service Commission, to lose on something that an attorney raised for free in the public domain, and they could have come to the parliament and they could have corrected it. And before the implosion of the Police Service Commission, they could have corrected it and done the appointment properly and brought the appointment to the parliament. But instead, they're starting to interfere in the appointment of the Commissioner of Police, so they couldn't get the procedure correct. It is costing the taxpayers of this country money. So when everybody has to line up and file or go online and file a valuation return form to pay property tax, they deserve to know why. They deserve to know why. It is because monies are being spent irresponsibly in the conduct of litigation in this state. Madam President, I cannot believe that I heard the minister in the Ministry of the Attorney General stand here and try to blame, and she tried to soften the blow, but you know, your senior users or the UNC lawyers for taking people to court. Madam President, I'm proud to say here, we got a whole katha the other day about the origins of gambling in the Mahabharata and all of that. But you know, I am proud to say that I stand here defending people who want to have open fire cremations because it is consistent with their religious beliefs, while the Ministry of the Attorney General is spending taxpayers' dollars to suppress those rights.
Senator Lutchmedial, are you referring by chance to any matter that is before the court?
Madam President, I'm not getting into the details of the matter.
Yeah, but yes.
I will move on. But Madam President, you cannot stand here and say that you are forced to spend fees when you are trying to defend sometimes things that are indefensible. Let me talk about a matter that they want to boast about winning. They try to claim victory in the Police Service Commission matter, but let's talk about a matter that's completed. Reported in the media, appeal court slashes $2 million award for abused boy. They spend the money of the taxpayers to pay senior counsel to appeal the award of damages for a child physically and sexually abused at the hands of the state. That is how the taxpayers' dollars are being managed under the Ministry of the Attorney General. And they want to come here and say that his lawyers affiliated with the UNC. Yes, lawyers affiliated with the UNC, we stand up every day and we fight for the rights of people. That is what we do. And we are very proud of it. And we will continue to do so. We have reached the stage right now, Madam President, where people who I never thought I could agree with in life have come out and talked about the management of the state of legal affairs in this country. And I will quote from an article dated October 17, 2021, by one Professor Selwyn Kojo. In speaking about certain things that were leaked into the public domain, again, I find there's plenty leaks taking place. I don't know, somebody obviously wants to expose the incompetence more than us. But in relation to some of those leaked documents, he says, all it does is expose the taxpayer to a claim or to indemnity by a person, I won't call the name, if he suffers certain losses. And Professor Kojo writes, another distinguished attorney noted that Alwari, quote, is a hindrance to the law because he does not understand the basic principles of law.
No, Senator Lutchmedial, you're quoting from an article, but when you're quoting from the article, you are now, it's deemed to be yours, all right? And therefore you're imputing, you're using insulting language about a member of the parliament, okay? So I will ask you, please, to move on.
But Madam President, I'll suffice by saying that this article captioned, has the people's lawyer lost his way? Could be read by anyone who wants to go on the Express online.
And Senator Lutchmedial, I have just asked you to move on.
I am moving on, Madam President.
Thank you very much.
But Madam President, the clear and sentiments of the public is that they have no confidence in the management of legal affairs of this country. Now, when I want to know which part of the budget really caters for all of the contingent liabilities that the taxpayer are going to have to undertake because of the poor management of legal affairs in this country, and litigation particularly. Because recently, the president of the Contractors Association talked about the amount of matters in court right now, the amount of people that are suing various agencies of the state, EMBD, EFCL, all of them, for monies owed to them. And that litigation is dragging on for years. And it's not only causing contractors to be under financial pressure, but what is going to happen if the state loses? Who is going to foot the bill for all the legal costs? Who is footing the bill for the legal costs now? Are we getting value for money in how the Ministry of the Attorney General spending our money? And I think the clear answer is no. Madam President, when we see the state of national insecurity due to the fact that we have no Commissioner of Police or acting Commissioner of Police because of the positions endorsed by the Attorney General, we have to really wonder if this is what passes for legal advice. Focusing on being the landlord and not a good lawyer for the state is really something that is costing us. Madam President, it is also very troubling that we see interference now with independent institutions and independent functions under the state. I have read in the newspaper about legal advice on criminal matters being sent to the police from the Office of the Attorney General. I want to know under what authority that is being done.
Yes, Senator Lutchmedial, you need to just dial it back a little bit, all right? Make your point and move on, please.
Well, Madam President, I asked the question here today, and I'm sure the Attorney General will come and respond, and perhaps he could advise us under what authority his office embarks upon giving advice in criminal law matters to the TTPS. I don't know if he's looking for an alternative career in law enforcement. But, you know, I want to find out then, since he's so interested in law enforcement, and I understand the Prime Minister has declared him.
Could I ask you, when you are referring to the Attorney General, yes, that you accord the office
sure,
the proper respect? okay, in terms of the title of the office.
The Prime Minister has indicated that the Attorney General is under attack because he's going after white-collar crime. So I want to highlight a particular case that I feel should engage the attention of the Attorney General. I'll refer to an article on June 14th, 2021, titled A&V Probe Not Over for Cops, Investigators Coming to Help. Madam President, in that particular matter, the then Commissioner of Police is quoted as saying that the end of arbitration proceedings in relation to this matter is not the end of the matter.
Madam President, on a point of order, please. Standing Order 46.1. I'm trying to follow the presenter, and I'm not sure what she's replying to and what remarks she's replying to in the budget debate, because I didn't hear the Prime Minister speak here.
Yes. Senator Lutchmedial, in a budget debate, a lot of leeway is given, quite a bit. I will allow you to finish your point, and then I'll ask you to move on.
I'll move on very quickly, and you'll see the relevance very shortly, please, Madam President. Yes, the Commissioner of Police said that he was receiving an update and he was seeking independent investigators. Now, that costs money. I hope it is budgeted for. He said, and it's quoted here, "We are looking for an independent reservoir engineer expert that is going to assist us to ascertain certain things, and also a forensic investigation will take place. And this is to validate the legitimacy of crude quantities." He said TTPS legal department was doing letters of engagement to retain the services of these experts. Now, I certainly hope that part of the allocations budgeted to the TTPS, budgeted to the Ministry of the Attorney General, and so on in this budget will be used to pursue this matter, because there were many other matters involving investigations of this nature. In fact, just last year, right before the election, we heard about the approval, and it was reported in the newspaper, of some $66 million additionally being approved by Cabinet to pay a firm in the United Kingdom to investigate criminal matters. So I certainly hope that the same amount of resources in all of the budgeting exercises that have been allocated to EMBD and so on for the political, what I term to be the political witch hunts, would also be allocated to A&V drilling matter.
Senator,
and that is the point, Madam.
Yes, but I have to caution you at this stage. In your very wide, sweeping presentation, you are making references to matters that are before the court, then you're moving on to something else. I'm going to caution you. Please do not make references to matters that are currently before the court. Thank you very much.
Sure. Just for the record, there are no criminal matters involving EMBD before the court. But
thank you very much, Senator Lutchmedial, for the enlightenment, but could you move on, please?
Thank you. Madam President, we heard from the Minister in the Ministry of the Attorney General about all of the work that's being done, and they call the names, my name of every head of department and so on in the Ministry of the Attorney General. Well, I hope that the next time, because the Minister says she speaks very regularly with him, I hope that she could ask him, or maybe she can tell us, the Minister can tell us, why, despite the allocation for the outfitting of new premises in the 2019 budget in San Fernando, they are still, and according to one of my former colleagues, they are still housed in the OSHA forgotten dump. That's how they describe the premises upon which the office of the DPP is located in San Fernando. Again, Madam President, in July 2020, right before the election, photo op in the newspapers, keys handed over by NIDCO for the new accommodation for the Port of Spain office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. They are still in their cramped quarters on Richmond Street up to today, more than a year later. Again, perhaps we would find out why it is opinions are being drafted on public health regulations and the breaches. Could discuss that as well the next meeting that you have with the DPP's office. Madam President, they boast about the accomplishments and they're calling the name of every department. One department that comes under that ministry is the Law Revision Commission. Since 2016, we cannot get access to the revised laws on the website that was put up there. That is the efficiency with which we are conducting, and managing the ministry. The revised laws are placed there for the use of everybody, citizens, the man on the street, access to the law, even parliamentarians. It is very difficult sometimes when we come here to amend bills, when they bring these miscellaneous provisions, bills and so on, and we want to have the updated laws. We have to wait until we are sitting there sometimes to get an unofficial update. But the provision exists on our website created by the Ministry of the Attorney General and Legal Affairs and something called the Digital Legislative Library, where you can have all of the updated laws available to us. Nothing. 2016 is the last time we have seen an update, and none of the amendments have been worked into the laws since then under the tenure of this Attorney General. So, Madam President, when they want to talk about boasting about the Equal Opportunities Commission and so on, I want to remind them it was a UNC government that brought equal opportunities legislation to this country. It was a UNC government that had to do that because, and again, do the research in the face of things and cases like the Mahasabha radio license case and the cases of Ganga Prasad Bisoon and Firoza Ramjan and people who were discriminated against in this country under the tenure of PNM governments that the Equal Opportunities Commission came into existence. I cannot say, Madam President, that anybody in this country has confidence in the conduct of affairs, the legal affairs of the state. How the monies of the taxpayers are being spent is the only thing, I mean, it is horrendous. And the defense that they come with is UNC lawyers cause us to spend that money. But the truth of the matter is, yes, UNC lawyers like Lutchmedial, Ram Logan, Ramdeen, Ram Bali, Hussein, all of them, that's who people come to for help when they need it, when their rights are being curtailed, when their rights are being trampled upon. That's who they come to. The minister in the Ministry of the Attorney General called the name of Akili Charles. Well, Madam President, if they are so concerned about the amount of fees that they have to pay in relation to cases, they could come to court themselves and defend the matter. Put on your robes and your bands and meet us in the Hall of Justice, because you could save some money in relation to those claims. We are fighting, and you could come and fight us as well.
Senator Lutchmedial, are you referring to matters which are before the court?
Madam President, I'm responding to a comment made by the minister in her presentation.
But I am asking you, are you referring to matters which are before the court?
I only called the name, yes, Madam President, of a matter before the court.
Can I ask you please to move on? I made an earlier ruling on it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Attorneys general in the past with legal proficiency like Anand Ram Logan and Ramesh Lawrence Maraj put on their robes and their bands and they came to court and stood and defended the state in matters. So I could challenge them to do the same thing. Instead of spending the taxpayers' dollars hiding behind expensive senior counsel and then come here to talk about the cases that we take up in defense of the rule of law, they could come and defend it themselves. Madam President, the other only defense that I think the Attorney General has proffered in relation to all the criticism against him is that everyone is crushing on him, and his junior minister came here yesterday to propagate that fallacy. Again, I wonder if they inspire confidence in the people of this country, if that is the best that they could do and come here with. He's the one calling the name of the street that I live on in the other place. Well, I will tell him that that's where I got my foundation in law. That's where I learned how to read and interpret legislation. I even learned quite a bit about legislative drafting from my mother, who was a drafter and a researcher from 1978 to 2017 in the ministry that he is now leading, but cannot even produce proper order before this parliament. So maybe I'll invite him to come to Beatrice Avenue at some point in time.
Senator Lutchmedial, who is the he that I'm hearing?
I'll invite the attorney. Sorry, Madam President. I'll invite the Attorney General to walk on Beatrice Avenue, where he seems to think I cannot step out of, and he could learn a little bit more about the flawed legal instruments that he brings to Parliament.
Madam President, on a point of order, Standing Order 53-4C. The Senator is repeatedly disregarding your rulings over and over and over throughout the duration of her presentation.
Senator Lutchmedial, just remember what I told you before.
Yes, Madam President. Madam President, all of our institutions are also being destroyed by the legislation that is brought here by various ministers and piloted by various ministers, but all legislative matters fall under the purview of the Attorney General. In this budget, they are talking about institutional building, but this is really institutional destruction. Institutional destruction of the Board of Inland Revenue and Customs to create the politically appointed Trinidad and Tobago Revenue Authority, the decimation of the Office of the Procurement Regulator, amongst others. Let us go back in history of budget debates. 2018, the budget statement read, the procurement regulator has been actively building capacity within the office. We have actively been building capacity within the office of the procurement regulator. I am advised that staff and training is in progress. Staffing and training is in progress, and barring unforeseen circumstances, the new procurement regime utilizing best practice could be in place in the first quarter of calendar 2019. The budget statement of 2019, with the soon-to-be proclaimed sections of the Procurement Act and the issuance of the associated regulations with approximately 6-month transition period as requested by the regulator, we expect to be in a position of fully implementing the new procurement arrangements in 2020.
Senator Lutchmedial, you have 5 more minutes.
Sure. Madam President, in 2020, what we saw is legislation being brought to the Parliament to take away oversight from key areas that require oversight in this regime, Madam President. They have found ways to facilitate the lack of transparency and accountability in the expenditure of funds. I'll very quickly mention property tax because I think that Senator Welsh it was that said that he is calling upon the government to hold back on property tax. Madam President, property tax takes no account of generational wealth. At a time like this when people are struggling in this country, to insist that they are going to roll out this property tax regime is uncaring. I know one member of parliament who said in 2009 that $100 is a lot of money for people. So all of the calculations put forward by the Minister of Finance of how little it would cost people in property tax, maybe he should refer to what the state of the economy was like in 2009 when $100 was held to be a lot of money by persons for the member of Diego Martin West. Madam President, with respect to national security, we have not heard any real plans to deal with our border security issues. We still have dam and vessels that are not being fully deployed. We still have a problem that poses both a national security crisis and also a health crisis with respect to our porous borders. 2 Cape-class vessels cannot patrol our borders, and we know that because they are not doing it properly. We are hearing reports over and over in the media about vessels not being available to come to the rescue of persons and so on because of a lack of fuel. Madam President, that is like buying a fancy vehicle, but you cannot afford to buy the gas. It is like telling people to buy electric cars and giving them exemptions to do so, but there's not enough gas stations that you could pull up to charging ports. That is like saying convert to CNG, but there are long lines outside the one gas station in a large city area that you need to go and fill your CNG. We need proper plans, Madam President. We need plans that are holistic and a whole of government approach, because in the education system where they are failing our children right now, they are making a future for children who would be ripe for the picking for the gangs in this country. And that is the evidence that comes before every Joint Select Committee and every other institution. When children are deprived of education and they live in poverty, the gang life becomes attractive to them, Madam President. And if you want to do anything about crime in this country, it is not to lock them up and throw away the key with no bail. It is to address the underlying issues that result in children being drawn towards the gang life in this country, Madam President. And with those few words, I thank you.